Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Geeking Poetic Podcast channel. I'm one of your hosts, Larry Roberts. This antsy Andorian over here to my right.
With the broken antenna?
Yeah, with the broken antenna. Who knew it was all muscle? And it really hurt to try and repair
Put
that
it back?
thing.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm Megan.
And we are here to talk about what?
Picard episode 4.
Yep, episode 4 of Star Trek Picard, season 3. And this episode was called No Win Scenario. And it seemingly appropriately so, because boy, oh boy, last week really left us on a nail-biting cliffhanger.
Yeah, I think things do not look good.
No.
To say the very least.
No. They definitely got themselves in a tight
Pickle.
Yeah, a real pickle. Yeah, in a tight spot. I think we're in a tight spot. So, anyway, what we do on this show is, first of all, again,
Spoilers. This is your warning.
I will get yelled at if I don't let you all know that there are going to be plenty of spoilers in this.
We're going to talk about everything.
We're going to talk about every little nook and cranny.
So you're going to be here for a while. Have a seat.
Yeah, our episodes usually go a little long. We apologize. If you're looking for one of those ones where it's like a whole recap that happens in like 10 minutes.
Not going to happen.
Yeah, those are there are other shows on YouTube that cover that. That is not us. We like to really get into it.
Delve into it. Get elbow deep. Really get in there.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, there's going to be plenty of spoilers. So if you haven't seen the episode, you might want to wait, unless you're like me and you like to spoil things ahead of time. This one too. Normally she doesn't like to spoil things, but I
can't wait this time.
Yeah.
I literally can't watch a show until just before we record, and I have to know ahead of time.
Yeah.
I just have to.
You are the antsy Andorian.
I am. I don't know what's wrong with me lately.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so what we do is we'll recap and we'll throw our 2 cents in, along the way. But we like to start out with talking about our just overall impressions and feelings of the episode, whether it was like, old Siskel and Ebert style. Was it thumbs up or was it thumbs down or was it kind of sideways? So Megan, I put it to you. I know you only literally just watched
finished
the episode, What did you think?
I really enjoyed this episode.
Yeah.
I enjoyed getting the downtime with the characters and kind of getting some Backstory.
Yeah.
There we go. Backstory on some of these characters, seeing the growth of our loved characters.
Yeah.
And the action that's in it. This one was very suspenseful to me. I was like, shh, everybody shut up around me. Cats, be quiet. Stop doing that.
Yep.
I am like engrossed. Yep. And I really, really like this episode.
Yeah. I do have some criticism of a few things, but nothing too major. To be honest with you, this episode, as you know, if you didn't see our last recap of 17 Seconds, the third episode, I was not
we had quite a bit to say about that.
Yeah, I wasn't overly enthused with a lot of the direction of that episode. It was well acted and it looked good and stuff, but there was some character choices that I just didn't care for. This one, there's still some of that, but man, just so much better. And I think it really helped that we got some much needed answers here about some of these characters that especially
are starting to unfold like an onion. As Shrek would say, right?
Something like
that.
Something like that. Yeah, and it was really necessary. Yeah, so I agree with you. I very much enjoyed this episode, and it's interesting that, without getting too far ahead of ourselves, it ends up acting as sort of an end of a chapter.
Yeah, exactly. So now we can move on. It's like, now we need these other answers.
Yes.
Now let's focus on that shit.
Yes, absolutely. So, I think without any further ado, let's just get into
Let's do it.
The whole thing. So the way this episode starts out is we get a flashback. It's one of those episodes where we're going to keep flashing back to past times, but no like super shitty CG effects in this one, really.
No, I really enjoy the flashbacks in this one.
Yeah, the flashbacks.
I think it was needed.
Yeah, it was. Yes, exactly. It was very needed. Even though one of the things that I get angry about is anybody, if you're familiar, if you're not familiar with the show, I'll explain. I have a very low threshold of tolerance for really typical tropes. You know what I mean? Like, just to me, it's just so overly done tropes. Some tropes are okay and you expect them, and some tropes I feel like gets to be a little bit like lazy writing on their part. You know what I mean? Where I'm like, you could have come up with another idea there rather than just rehashing the same thing, or in some instances with this episode, doing things that, like, you've already done that before. Like, it's not even new, you know. I don't know.
But
okay,
yeah,
go ahead.
We'll get to some of these, because I know some of these actually.
Yeah,
that you're gonna get to, and I don't know if I agree.
Okay. That's okay.
So we will get. I'll play devil's advocate. We're going to get both sides of it here.
Yeah.
So.
Not everybody has to agree. That's the whole point of this. Is just different viewpoints on it. But anyway, so this starts out with a flashback to 5 years prior. Picard is getting ready to sit down with his plate of haddock at the 10 Forward bar on Earth. I believe
I believe it's her.
Yeah, it was
Earth
Guinan's bar on
one.
Earth. Yeah. And he is besieged upon by a bunch of eager young, Starfleet recruits and stuff saying...
It reminded me of like that guy you keep running into at NAMM. He's always eating. And you're like, oh, hi. Like, oh, poor guy.
My buddy Steve. Yeah, every time I run into him, the guy's trying to eat. And I've gotten to the point where I'm like, I'm not even going to bother trying to... I'll catch him later.
We'll see later.
Yeah, exactly. So. But anyway, they start asking him questions about all his various conquests and wanting to know the info about it. And at first Picard tries to kind of brush them away and say, I'm not good at telling stories and all this. Very C-3PO like of him to be like, sorry, I'm not very good at telling stories, and then proceeds to turn around and just delve into telling all these stories.
Well, they probed him. They're like, come on, we want to hear it from your lips. Who better to hear it from? He was
just, that was all baloney. He was only too happy to talk.
He was really hungry.
But one of the initial purposes of having this flashback scene, initial purposes, because it changes purpose later, is that he starts explaining to them that, he starts talking to them about a no-win scenario he found himself in years ago, and that, it's important in those situations to remember that no matter what, you have to keep positive, you have to have faith and hope, and you have to keep working towards some kind of solution, and you'll more often than not you'll figure it out and everything. It's very
with the help of your crew.
Yeah, with the help of your crew and all that. It's very inspiring to them. And then it immediately unironically cuts ahead to present day, where we have poor Will Riker on the bridge of the Titan, and he's just like,
well, that's it.
Yeah, he's like, well, yeah, exactly. That's that. He's just like, he can't figure out a way out of this. They keep trying to figure out some way to save.
Yeah, I
ship.
like the banter back and forth with the crew on the bridge. So it's like they're trying everything. It's like, what can we pull from? And everybody's putting their 2 cents in, and he's like trying to find a way, but nothing's working.
Yeah, exactly.
I really enjoyed that.
Right. Yeah, I do too. I find myself. It's a shame that this is the last season and we're just getting to meet these characters and the Titan and everything. And who knows? I have a feeling we're probably not even going to see that much more of the Titan. Well, we might. I don't know.
I don't know where this is going to go from here.
Yeah, that's true. But I like these characters. Mm-hmm. I like this. I'm like, man, I could almost see this launching off into a next
maybe
generation.
We get a Titan season next.
Right. Star Trek killer. Titan. That could be really cool, man, because I can see myself potentially warming up to Shaw.
Whoa. I didn't know that was going to happen.
We'll see. I said potentially.
Potentially. Okay. Potentially. We got 6 more episodes to go.
It could go either way with Captain Shaw with me right now. So, but in any case, so Riker's going back and forth with the crew, asking them all these questions of what they can possibly do. And then at that moment, all of a sudden, Sidney LaForge is like, "Sir, there's something going on." And we get this really bright light showing on the screen, and the whole ship is disrupted with some sort of like energy wave kind of thing. And this, I mean, before you even find out what this energy wave thing is about, as soon as I saw this, I was like, oh, okay, here we go. I'm like, something else is going on. There's some energy thing. Like, okay, this is going to be the key to
everything.
Yeah,
savior. Literally, it came to you. You saw the light. Yeah,
what's going to save their butts. And they're all like blinded by this and like, whoa, what the heck is going on with this? Problem is every time they're getting hit with these energy waves, it's also causing more damage to their shields. They're almost completely out of resources at this point. And meanwhile, while that's going on, Beverly is down still in the medical area and stuff, and she's
4.
Yeah, she's
3,
just like looking at
2,
her little
1.
futuristic iPad thing and counting down, and you could see the look on her face. You're like, here we go. Bev's figuring it out. Like she
got something up her sleeve. She's brewing something in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Pun intended.
Boy. She knows that there's something else going on there and everything, and she's trying to like put it all together. Meanwhile, while that's going on, though, Riker ends up going to visit Jean-Luc in his quarters, and Jean-Luc immediately starts apologizing to Will, like, oh, I shouldn't have been interfering. I'm so sorry. And Riker just sort of like shuts him up. What?
Go ahead.
Okay.
You finish.
Okay. She's making faces at me. And immediately shuts him up and is like, nope, you were right all along. And Riker kind of gets into a whole thing where he sort of explains a little bit more about what's been going on with him and why he chose to put some distance between himself and Deanna, and the fact that she's all about emotions. She can't help, but she's an empath, so all she can do is just sense every little emotion, and Will's just like
dead inside.
Emotionally shut off. And even to the point where he's talking about how essentially he's kind of lost like faith, because he's like, I don't know. I haven't seen anything in this entire universe that's given me any kind of hope that there's something beyond the grave, sort of thing. It's pretty heavy for Will.
Yeah.
So what were you going to say?
I was just going to say that Picard doesn't need to apologize. I mean, I know I was Team Riker last episode, right? And I still am, because I think they were in a no-win situation. There's no way they could have turned and fought at that point in time.
Right.
With everything they had going on. But ultimately, Riker was in command. Riker decided to take the action of what Picard was saying eventually.
Right.
And Riker got him in the situation. Picard did not need to apologize.
No. Yeah. I mean, I do think Picard, it was decent of him to apologize, because he was still, Riker was in charge. I mean, I understand that Picard is the admiral and all that kind of stuff, but Riker was in the chair. You know what I mean?
Right.
He was supposed to have like the final say, and like Picard just kept like picking at him, like meddling and everything. And I think they were both right and they were both wrong, is what it kind of comes down to.
Yeah.
So,
because Riker says like, you were right. I should have done that sooner. I don't know if he was, but I get how he's feeling in the moment.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, in any case, the way that conversation ends is with Riker basically getting it across to Picard that it's like, look, man, we're probably all dead here, so you need to go and talk to your son Jack and see if you can have some kind of
cherish any little bit of time that you have.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically.
Make some kind of connection with him, and everything. Picard realizes that he's right. like I said, meanwhile, when Picard gets there, like Beverly's still doing her whole countdown thing, and she's putting it together. She's figuring out like what's going on. Meanwhile, while Picard goes off to do that, we see that Riker goes and finds Seven, and he starts talking to her, and she tells him the whole rundown of what's going on with this changeling thing. And Riker puts her on the task, so to speak, and is like, I need you to go and like figure this out and get to the bottom of this and find it. But I could reinstate you, but I'm not gonna, because I think you'll work better if you're not like officially.
You can do more things.
Yeah, you won't have to be doing things quite by the book, because, and just even the very slight little smirk she gets on her face is so telling, because it's like, yeah, that's what she's meant for. She's not meant to be some Starfleet officer doing things totally by the book and above board. That ain't Seven style, man. Like she's got to do, especially after everything she's been through in the last 20 years, she's got to do things her own way. So she's like, all right, yeah, if you're going to put me on it like that, then I can be effective and I can do this task for you.
Yeah. I loved how when she first was telling about it, he's like, we need to keep this on the down low or whatever. And she's like, what do you mean? We got to do something about it. I was like, whoa, I didn't say not do nothing about it. We can't. He's like, he's like, you're just giving up. We're all going to die, and he's going to die with us. What does it matter? He's like, no, I didn't say, whoa.
Yeah. Well, It's because she's so used to dealing with Shaw lately, who just, has her under his thumb in every possible opportunity. And yes, we'll find out some more why that is, but we haven't gotten there yet. But anyway, so speaking of Shaw, she begrudgingly realizes like, I need some info here, and the only person that's going to really be able to help me with this is Shaw. So she ends up going to visit Shaw in his quarters, and I thought it was cool too, because again, there's all throughout this episode, every time we see Shaw, even though he gets his opportunities to voice his, in some respects, very legit, opinions and, issues he has with things. I think it's also cool that all along the way, especially from Seven, there's opportunities for her to sort of make him realize, like, look, because when she first goes to see him, he's like, oh, yeah, this is a great fix you and your stupid old friends. Got us into and everything. And she's like, oh, well, as a matter of fact, sir, it turns out we've got a changeling on the ship that was obviously planted here long before they ever even showed up. So clearly this goes
that about?
Exactly. So this obviously goes deeper than just, Picard and Riker being here. And he kind of quickly realizes especially because he's familiar with what the changelings are, he knows their history and what, the problem with these villains, is they were very problematic. And so then he sits down and he starts explaining to her, okay, here's what they are. Here's how they operate. They have this weird pot thing that they're all like clinging to, because that's how they like regenerate or whatever, is they got to go and
it's where they rest.
They got to go goop into a pot. And, I loved that he, like I said, little by little, I'm like, okay, I'm kind of warming up to this character. I loved that Shaw referred to the changelings as Play-Doh people. I was like, okay, I laughed out loud when he said that. And I was like, oh, awesome. They've still got Play-Doh in the future, huh? So, but anyway, so he explains to her, and she's all like, okay, bolstered by this, and is like, all right, I'm on it. He's like, whatever. Literally like, whatever. Which, again, to a certain degree, I feel like, I'm like, oh, come on. You're trying too hard to make him just so, it's like, like I said, in some ways I understand now why he is the way he is, so crass and negative about certain things. I still think the writing makes him a little extra. Let's just
I like him extra.
yeah, and I think that I'm in the minority because from you and from other people I've seen and heard online, people seem to really be liking this character. I think.
Yeah, I mean he's a complete dick, but I don't know.
Oh,
I'm kind of liking him.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess. Meanwhile, speaking of changelings, though, we finally get one of our only cutaway scenes over to Vatic over on the Shrike ship. She does something really creepy and weird, and all of a sudden she puts her hand on the table and cuts it off, and it gets all gooey and stuff. So I saw people debating about this today online and everything, and they had all these theories about it's this, that. I'm like, I think she's just a changeling, right?
Yeah, I think she's a changeling.
Yeah, because people were like, well, maybe it's just something with her arm or like a part of her is, or this hand thing. And I'm like, I think you all are trying really hard here to make it not the obvious thing, which is that Vatic's just one of the changelings, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in any case, she cuts off her hand and it turns into this weird alien changeling head that's like talking to her. So it's a form of it's kind of like a weird version of Darth Vader talking to the hologram of the Emperor in Empire Strikes Back, but way more.
Or the Wizard of Oz. The curtain.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but way more goopy.
Oh yeah,
you know,
he was gross looking.
Yeah, so she's relating to her changeling boss guy that what's going on with the Titan and everything, and he basically says to her like, look, you have to turn around, you have to put yourself in harm's way now and go into that nebula thing and find them, because the whole point of this mission is to get Jack. That was the whole point of it. Vatic's not real thrilled with that at first, because
no, I don't think she's ever thrilled with it.
No, I mean she's saying like, I've got all sorts of like important cargo on here, not to mention her ship and her crew and all this, and the changelings like, too bad. You got to
go get him or you die. Either way.
Right, exactly. And so she's like, okay, I guess that's what I'm going to do.
That's dad.
And that's dad. And what, the thing about that is that answered something in a way that I was complaining about when we did the last recap, which was, I was like, this whole thing isn't making sense. Like, why is Vatic doing so much stuff to seemingly like cause them all to die and the ship to, be destroyed and everything? Like, I thought the whole point of this was they were trying to get Jack. Why are they not trying to get Jack? Like, even at that point when she sent this message to the changelings and stuff, you kind of got the impression that she was sort of being like, yeah, oh well, turning around and leaving now because, oh well, they're in there and I guess they're dead and everything. And the changelings are like, no. Your whole point of doing this, bitch, was that you were supposed to be getting Jack for us, like you better turn your ass around, It's like, and that was my big question last time. I was like, because they even addressed that. It's like, if Vatic just simply wanted them all dead to begin with,
she could have done it.
She could have done it. She had the ability to just blow them out of, into oblivion.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole thing just felt weird to me. Like, it felt, I don't know, like a half-baked idea on the part of the writers to stretch this out. You know what I mean? Because I couldn't understand why she wasn't already coming to the conclusion that, oh, I need to go around and try to get him and stuff. That she was just, I don't know, she wasn't doing shit. Anyway, so
it may pay off in the end. And I'm not entirely sold that goopy face thing is a changeling. It could be something else.
Maybe.
We don't know yet.
Well, in any case, so where are we at now? So then the next thing that goes on is we get a kind of a somber, introspective moment with Riker, where he is attempting to leave some sort of like formal message, last will and testament kind of thing, like, if I don't make it out alive sort of thing, for both official purposes as well as to Deanna and everything. And he's just unable to do it. He just literally cannot come up with the words. He can't bring himself to say it. It's more of that whole thing they keep hammering home with him, that he's just so like emotionally locked up and like, yeah, he's just like got this giant like emotional cork in him that he can't like let it out. He can't say what he needs to say. He can't show those kind of emotions and stuff. And it's well acted. It's
Very well.
It's actually like really a really good moment in there. And yeah, go ahead.
I love when afterwards, when he kind of gives up, he's like, pause. And it pauses it and it like focuses down on the table.
Yeah.
It shows his reflection.
Yeah.
So it's like we're not supposed to see it, but we're seeing just the hurt that he's feeling.
Yeah.
And but like I don't know. I'm in these moments and I still can't do it. So what the fuck?
The hurt and failure, sense of failure,
Yeah,
and
so many emotions in that one
right.
couple seconds.
Right.
It was so well acted.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, man, it goes without saying. I know we've said this, we're 4 episodes now, but man, Jonathan Frakes is killing it in this show. He's just, this has been, he as an actor, he as a director, and he, in terms of his character, Will Riker, have finally been really given the opportunity to shine dramatically, especially comedy, like all across the board. I really think that this is finally, not like we didn't all know he was great before, but I think that this is just proof.
Yes.
This is just
This is
proving
him just
it.
shining.
Yeah, he's just shining in this.
I'm eating every bit of it up. I love it.
And everybody is. I mean, Patrick Stewart's great. Gates McFadden's great. Everybody's been great. But I really think this has just been Jonathan Frakes' like finest moment.
And I really, really hope they're not going to kill him off at the end after all this. I'm gonna be so mad because I love him so much.
People are gonna freak out. I think people are gonna freak out worse if he dies than if Picard dies.
Yeah,
because I think people maybe kind of would expect Picard to die. I mean, the man's 100 years old, and this is the end and everything. He's not. People are gonna freak out. So I hope
they don't do that.
I hope they don't do that too, because boy, oh boy,
But I got a bad feeling.
Yeah,
brewing inside.
Yeah,
Oh man,
I do too. But let's not talk about it. All right, let's just
happy thoughts. What we got next?
Bad juju. So next, we cut over to Picard and Jack. Picard is taking Jack to 10 forward in the holodeck. Jack is playing coy, we come to find out, saying, "Oh no, I've never been there before." Well, we'll find out more about that in a little while.
Oh, I didn't catch that actually.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I sure didn't.
Yeah, when Picard's explaining to him, like, "Oh, this is 10 forward on Earth and everything."
Means a lot to me. But
means a lot to me, and he's like, "Oh, have you ever seen it before?" And no, never been there. And it's like, And I knew then, that something was up. This is a really cool scene. I really liked this scene. I feel like this was very necessary of a scene, like we've been waiting for. Finally, for Jack to dial back his angsty bullshit a little bit and just talk to Picard man to man. There's a funny joke about. I love when he's like, "All right, let's just address the elephant in the room," and he's like, "The hair, the baldness, like when did that start?" And Picard's like, You're
like 23, 24?
Yeah, he's like, "Yeah, enjoy it while you can."
Crap.
Yeah, I thought that was really, really funny. And this scene, they kind of continue to cut back and forth a little bit between juxtaposing what Picard had to say to the cadets that day 5 years ago and what he's saying now to Jack, because there's some contradiction there, like the Picard that was talking 5 years ago in the bar to the cadets was very cavalier and regal and a little self-assured and arrogant about basically saying like, oh, this has been my whole life and I've lived for this and blah, blah, blah. And, there's nothing greater. And then cutting back to him talking to Jack and trying to explain to Jack that it's like, no, actually you need other people. You need to have connection. It can't just be all about solitary and all about you and your missions and your, your regalness and all that shit. Like, and you can see that Jack is a little confused by this, that he's seeing sides of Picard that I don't know that Jack anticipated he would see from Picard, because he keeps saying, he's like, look, man, you don't have to do all this to make me feel better, about this. And then Picard finally is like, dude, I'm doing this to make me feel better. I'm doing this because I need to talk to you. I need to get these things out. And it's just very different from that Picard of 5 years ago and the Picard that Jack assumed he knew, that's who that person was. And then we get into more tropes, more typical tropes. I'm like, God, one of my biggest pet peeves that they do on any movie or TV show and stuff is right when we're going to have that breakthrough, right when somebody's going to finally actually say something that would make a big positive difference, we have to have somebody walk in the room that interrupts, and oh no, they don't get to say what they should have said that would have made everything better. And so we prolong this whole misunderstanding. It's such a tired writing device. Oh. And if it wasn't for the next scene being so pivotal and good and amazingly acted, I'd be so much more angry about it. But what ends up happening is who comes,
sauntering,
yeah,
limping.
I was going to say kind of limping and sauntering into the bar, hepped up on painkillers, apparently, from Beverly, but none other than Captain Shaw, who starts going on a whole thing talking about
when he met Picard.
The first time he actually met your dear old father here and everything. And to cut to the quick, what we come to find out is that many years ago, when Shaw was just a lower class, what do you call it, grease monkey, he said, working in engineering, he was at the Battle of Wolf 359. Now, for those that don't know, I'm sure most people that are watching or listening to this know what that is, but the Battle of Wolf 359 was the incident where, God, how many was it? It was supposed to be like 39.
Yeah, I was going to say 40.
39 or 40 Starfleet ships were either destroyed or assimilated by the Borg, largely due to Locutus of Borg being there, because he had the intel in his head, being who he was, being Picard. He was able to help them to pull off that whole thing at 359. And Shaw was there, and this explains so much. And man, okay, so first of all, this whole thing, I just want to get into because I think that this is, in so many ways, one of the most important parts of this entire episode. One of the most important parts I've seen of this series so far was this whole scene. And I want to break it down into what I consider to be positives and negatives. And I want to bounce it off of you and see what you think. Okay, so first of all, the positives. So Todd Stashwick, who plays Captain Shaw, fucking kills it. He's so good. And I have to admit, I'm not like overly familiar with this actor. I know where he's from and everything. I know other things he's been in, but I'm not super well versed in all that stuff. But oh my gosh, how beautifully did they cast this part by putting Stashwick in there. He acts the shit out of this part.
He does.
Because he's you just see a man who is just so emotionally broken. And it explains so much. It explains why he hates Picard, why he hates Seven, why he's got such a thing about the Borg, why he had such a thing about their cavalier way of, the stuff that the Enterprise used to get into and all this stuff. I initially thought he was just this really pompous ass, you know what I mean? It was like, wow, to act that way and to act that way towards these people of this stature and that he should have higher regard for. Completely get it now. And I'm not even saying he's right. He's not 100% right to feel that way.
But you understand where he's coming from now.
But you completely understand why he feels that way. And you realize, just like when Vadic made the comment when she went on screen in the last episode, or it was it the last one or the one before that?
Before, I think.
And second episode when she was talking, about, I read your medical report, and and you get the hint that there's something emotionally, mentally wrong with Shaw. Well, this has got to be
here it is.
So, I mean, that was major. That was a major advancement of this character. Now, that doesn't mean he's not still a dick.
He is.
Because he is, and he knows it. He knows it. Even I loved when he gets to the end of the the rant, and Picard just kind of, Jack's actually kind of yelling at Shaw, and Picard,
he's like, okay, that's enough. And Picard's like,
no, I gotta own this and everything. He's like
he's not wrong.
He's not wrong. Yeah, I've got to own this. I don't really have any good comeback for this because it's all fucking true, So, like, I love his comeback at the end. What does he say? Something about he's like somehow like charm,
along the way,
charm turns into
asshole became replaced charm or something.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
That.
Yeah,
I love that. It's like that's so true.
Charm was replaced by asshole. Yeah, exactly. I thought, like I said, I'm really coming to enjoy. I don't want to say enjoy this
the character. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's largely due to the way Todd Stashwick is acting it. Thumbs up for you, dude. You're doing such a killer job. Like,
when he was talking about the 50 and counting down to 10, and then he's like, she pointed at me. Just the way he acted that.
Yes.
Oh, that was gut wrenching.
Oh yeah, when he tells that
was amazing acting.
When he tells that story and everything, and about how and the guilt.
Yeah.
He puts across that guilt he has, like, why is she picking me to be saved, to be rescued?
From Chicago.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, why am I? Yeah, exactly. So well done. I won't keep going on and on and on, but again, I'd love to hear other people's comments about this because I thought this was just some of the best writing and acting that I've seen in the entirety of the Picard show, all 3 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So good. And to do that to a character that up to this point, the previous 3 episodes, I was just like, oh my God, kill this guy already because I can't stand him so much. To lay that on us and do it in the way they did, bravo. That is a sign of good writing. However, I do want to counterpoint that a little bit, and this might be where you're going to argue with me. I don't know. But there's also some issues with that too. So what I don't get is, first of all, and I'll start from minor to major. First of all, it seems like Starfleet was really taking a chance on throwing this guy out there in the universe with this ship, because if he's that damaged emotionally, and I don't blame him, but if he's that damaged emotionally and you're sending him out there like into the cosmos where he's going to run into situations like this and very likely and possibly might run into the Borg, do you want to send a guy out there? It's not like he's just working some replaceable, role on a ship. He's the freaking captain, like he's got to have all of his wits and then some for everybody, for all 400 or 500 souls on board. You know what I mean? It just seems awfully risky for Starfleet to have taken that chance on him like that. What? You're making a face at me. So what are you thinking?
I am sure the Starfleet dotted all their I's and crossed all their T's. Because, I mean, they put freaking Picard back after Locutus. Who does that?
Yeah, that's...
You know what I mean? He had to go through all this stuff to show he could be the captain again. And I'm sure, I mean, he still deals with the shit, obviously. He's still mentally dealing with all this stuff, too. But he could do the job.
Well,
now, Todd, Captain Shaw, is just more crass about it. And he wears his heart on his sleeve, let's say, where Picard's more diplomatic.
Yeah. Well, let me throw
But we've also seen that Shaw is very astute to what is going on. Just like when he's like, how did they keep finding us? Something is off. What is it?
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that. I mean, here's my thing. You're bringing up like the thing about, well, they put Picard back out there. I have to be honest with you. I think that was a stupid ass idea too. I think that I'm just looking at Starfleet going, bro, what are you thinking, man? Like how, you keep throwing these guys out there. I don't know. I hear what you're saying, but I just feel like it's iffy. And then furthermore, I don't know if she was, forced upon him, or if he chose, because usually you get the impression that the captain has some say in who gets to be like, his first mate and all that his number one and all that kind of stuff. And he chooses 7 of 9 who he clearly hates and loathes, like for what she is, who she is. Like, what was the point of that? Like, that just seems so triggering to him. Was the whole point is he was like, well, I'm going to pick the Borg chick, so that I can just make her life hell as like a little bit of like everyday payback to the Borg. That seems dumb.
Yeah, I mean, Shaw's a dick, but I don't see him being that big of a dick. He's like, I'm going to torture this person's soul. That you're hurting the entire crew, and I don't see him doing that.
Right, and so that's...
He's like, I want to, not put ourselves in this situation because I want to protect the crew. So I don't see him doing that. I have a feeling she was forced upon him.
Okay, and that
in some way, and I would love to hear the story behind that, of how that happened and why.
Yeah, and if that's the case, then that makes a little bit more sense. And and then I mean, we get to the point. What I have one of the biggest issues with this whole story is that as he's telling this story about being at Wolf 359 and blah blah blah, and this is why I hate Picard because he's Locutus of Borg, and I'm watching it and going, I've heard this before, I've seen this before, almost verbatim to the T. And it's because we're getting into the whole thing that started basically DS9, Deep Space Nine, because this is why Benjamin Sisko, who was a captain of another ship, hated Picard, because he and his wife were at Wolf 359, and Sisko's wife died there at the hands of Locutus and the Borg and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, geez, man, like, how many times are you just going to tell the same story? Like, in the next episode, are we going to meet somebody else that's like, I hate you because of Wolf 359? Like, what? You got that look again.
I enjoyed that it was a story that was already been in place. We got to see a different side of the same story.
I don't feel like it was the different side. It was the same story.
It's the same story. It's the same event, but it was this guy's story, not this guy's story. Everybody has a little bit different. Yeah. And I enjoyed seeing that people are still affected by that. And I enjoyed that the boy, Jack, was there to witness this, because he's dealing with all this resentment from the crew at the moment. He's like, right, what am I going to do with this? And so now he's seeing his father go through the same thing and owning up to it. Just like what Riker told him in last episode. Was like, look, we got to show them why they're doing this for you. Own it.
Yeah.
You're in this. You didn't ask for it. He didn't ask to become Locutus.
Right. No, I get the importance of it to the story. And
I
to
enjoyed
Jack,
it. It was the same story.
I guess. But lastly,
It's kind of a fan service, and I know people bitch about fan service. I like it.
I don't
see anything wrong with it.
Too,
so it's a story we know, we're familiar with, not just throwing out some other random thing. I was like, wait, what is that? And everybody goes looking it up, and it doesn't exist yet.
Okay, but well, then this leads me to my biggest point about it, though, is because I don't disagree with you on that kind of stuff. I love the fan service stuff. I get there's tons of fan service in this, and we'll get to more of that in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest issue I have with all of this is that there is more to Jean-Luc Picard and his 100 years of being in existence and all the things he's done. There is more to him than his connection to the Borg and his time with the Borg. Now, before people start freaking out and going, well, but it's so major. And I get it. I was there, bro. I watched all that. I saw Locutus when he first came on in the early 90s. I get it. I'm not saying it may even be possibly the most important thing that ever happened to Picard, good or bad, mostly bad. It may be the most important thing. But what I'm getting at is that it feels like it's just the well that the writers keep constantly going back to. And it's like there's so many other facets of him and his backstory and other villains he's encountered and other situations he's been in and all sorts of stuff. There's so much more to him than just his fucking connection to the Borg and being Locutus. And we've already gone back to this well so many times, just since, not even counting the times they revisited the whole thing in Next Gen after it happens, or in the movies like First Contact and stuff like that. Just in Picard, since this started, we're only 3 seasons in, and they have at every opportunity brought up the Locutus from Borg thing. And it's just like, I don't know. I'm like getting to the point where, like, at first it was like really cool. You know, it was like really cool that, like, in the first season with the whole thing with what's her face's character and finding out that she was not human, and then her whole, you know, and the possible Borg connection thing, and like there was all this different stuff, and Picard being able to relate to her because of what he'd been through, and then how that ended and all that. Like, I was like, oh, wow, they're going to go there. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it felt exciting. Like, wow, we're going to touch on the Borg and the Locutus thing again. Awesome. Okay. And then we did that for a season. Then we get to season 2. And now what are we revisiting again? The Borg Queen and Locutus from Borg, and how and that whole, and it just keeps coming back to it. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting numb to the whole Borg thing now. Like, I'm done with the fucking Borg. No more Borg. Enough of the Borg. Enough of the Borg. It's a big universe. There are also, that's why I was excited when I found out they were doing things with the changelings. I'm like, there you go. Cool. Revisit them. You know, what's going on with them, especially because of the way things ended with them at the end of DS9 and stuff like that. Like, oh, we're going to go off and see what's going on with them and all that. Great. Cool, I want that, but they keep dragging it back to the Borg, and I'm like, enough. I'm sorry, I know there's probably all sorts of Trekkers out there that are like freaking out. How can you hate on the Borg? I didn't. I used to love the Borg. I guess I still do love that whole storyline, but I've had enough of it. Move on from Locutus of Borg. Let's get into some other aspects of the character and his backstory. That's what I have to say about it. You're giving me looks.
I am wondering, you probably don't want to hear this now, I think the 3 seasons have been so incredibly different. And like you said, the common thread is Locutus and the Borg at some way, shape or form.
Yeah.
I was like, and Shaw hates the Borg.
Right.
Whatever reason. I'm very curious. Are they keeping a huge secret from us that the Borg is going to come back and like be on their side to help them through this, to defeat the bad guys?
But isn't that the way season 2 ended, essentially?
Essentially.
I mean, and that's what I'm saying. And if they do that, it's like, okay, cool, but fuck, we've already done this. I want something else. It's like in whatchamacallit, it's like, Bill Murray, like, we want something else. We want something else. Banging on the tables. That's me now. I want something else. I'm done with the Borg, man. I mean, if it's well done and that's what they throw at us is more Borg stuff, I guess I'll just, take it and deal with it. But I'm just stating here and now. I'm done with the Locutus stuff. I'm done, like, enough. We know he was Locutus of Borg. We know it. Okay. I get it. And it, like I said, it's really cool the way they've developed the Shaw character with this and the importance of it. So I get that. But all right, we've established that. Now let's move on. That's all I'm saying. So speaking of moving on to something more positive. So after that, Picard ends up having a powwow with Jack and Beverly, and then subsequently Riker comes into it, where Beverly starts revealing to them, like, hey, look, I think I've figured this all out. Basically, these energy waves that we're feeling and stuff are, to cut to the quick, they're basically like contractions. And this so-called nebula that we're sort of in like a giant space womb. And there's, we're kind of getting to the end of it here. We've got a limited amount of time before this thing, just sort of
Pop goes the weasel.
Pops out, yeah, whatever kind of weird space babies it's going to, which then brings up another cool connection, because Picard's immediately like, oh, you mean like a Farpoint and everything. And then he's like, and they're like, exactly. And I'm like, yep.
Exactly like Farpoint.
Yeah, it's exactly like Farpoint. And this whole thing is an example of fan service. Doing that is so fan servicey, to go back to the first episode of Next Gen and everything. But you know what? I don't mind. It's great. Like, I think it's such a cool idea to do that. You're making that face at me again.
I'm not making faces.
Yes, you are.
I agree.
Okay.
I think they are like covering all sorts of bases in this season, including Locutus. But anyway, go on.
There's room for other bases that can be covered.
And
they've covered Locutus on that base enough.
Anyway, go on.
It's under a mountain of dirt. They've covered that base. Anyway, so she comes up with, they start talking about it and riffing on the idea that they can so-called surf these energy waves if they were to possibly figure out a way to use that to surf it right on out into somewhere where they can safely get away, maybe use that energy somehow. Will is still being...
Like, are you crazy?
Yeah, he's still being defiant, obstinate Will about it and everything. It's pretty cool to see the way they all start to band together and be them.
Yeah, this is when it really got good for me.
Yeah, exactly. First, you've got Jack, who's showing that he's a chip off the old block of both his parents, saying like, no, we could do this and we could do, and it's like this. And Picard is being his sort of, calm and, wise self, saying, Will, no, this is what you have to do. And you have to take these risks and blah, 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 blah. And then Beverly throws out, she's got the whole like Hail Mary, throw.
He's walking out the door.
As he's walking out of the door, and it's just like, Will, what would Deanna do? And it's like, oh shit,
damn
you brought the wife into it. Damn. And it's like, what would Deanna do? Because I know Deanna real well, and I think she would say blah blah, this and that and everything. And at that point, Will's just like, oh my God. But it works, because Will turns around and is just like,
because that last little sliver of pie that they need to make this work.
And just the way they wrote it and the way they acted it and the way he comes in, he's like, if we opened up the nacelle and we used that as a way to siphon the energy from the waves, it just might be. And it's like, yes, there you go.
There he is.
Now we've got Star Trek. Like this, now we feel like there's been these hints all along. And from here on out, I feel like for the rest of this episode, it feels
It's
like
grade A stuff. It's so good.
it feels like next gen. You know what I mean? And I'm like, here we go. All right. And even just the way they're reacting to it is like kind of like they're thinking the same thing, really, you know?
Yeah, I love it. It's like, come on, we've been doing this. This isn't our first rodeo. We've been doing this. And like, let's just stick to what we're good at. And this is what we're good at. So, and they're so good at it.
Yeah, they are. I do want to bring up real quick one thing, though, because it's something we've mentioned, and I know other fans have mentioned, and I don't think we get as uptight about it as the other fans do and everything, because if people are listening or watching us right now, know that we're pretty foul-mouthed with a lot of their stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But, I don't really need to hear Picard drop F-bombs.
It's just weird.
It's just not in his character to do that.
All the other ones, Shaw is perfectly fine.
I get it from the other characters, but to hear Picard drop
It was
an
weird.
F-bomb.
It took me out from. I was like, oh,
yeah.
okay, back
that
in.
was a little weird.
Yeah,
However, moving on to the next scene, we get Picard and
Seven
end up going to visit Shaw in his quarters now, and it's great because the reactions, like Picard says, like, I know I'm the last person you want to see right now, because this is after Shaw just totally like
laid into him
and 10 forward on the holodeck and stuff. But I love when he is saying to him, you know, I need your help, and blah blah blah, and this, and what does he say?
Like, even though you're a dipshit from Chicago, we need you.
And I thought, I love Shaw's reaction when he just pauses and he's like, nice. Yeah, he's like, all right.
I'm in.
Like, you're talking my language now.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta learn how to talk to Shaw, how to communicate with him.
Well, and I love the fact that I as soon as they said that he was from Chicago, I was like, oh, of course he's from Chicago.
It all comes together now.
It all comes together. This is why he feels so fucking familiar to me. Because for those that are watching or listening and may not realize it, we're from Chicago. If you can't tell by my accent, the way I talk. Yeah, we're Chicago here. So so Shaw is very familiar to me. But anyhow, so they end up, Shaw and Seven decide they're going to work together to get the nacelles open in order to absorb the energy from the waves. And there's more playful back and forth. There's some great back and forth there between like, I love when Shaw does the whole like character switch when he's like, you know, I feel like I've really underestimated you and all that stuff.
You'd make a great captain.
You'd make a great captain one day. And then she's like, yeah, no, that's not not real. You're just a dick. He's like, yeah, no, of course I'm a dick. See, that's how you would be able to tell that I'm the changeling. I'm not the real guy.
Yeah.
I thought that was brilliant. Brilliantly acted, brilliant writing. That was genuinely funny. Mm-hmm. But they end up making this plan where they're going to go down to engineering and they're going to basically kind of like hotwire almost the nacelles in order to absorb the energy from the wave at exactly the right time. While they're talking about this, Shaw once again showing his astuteness and his wits and everything. He started saying to her, he's like, you know, what we're doing right now and how crucial this is and where we're at, this would be the perfect opportunity for the enemy to waltz in here and cause trouble and everything. And they're like, oh, okay. So when they're having communicating back and forth with the bridge and talking about doing the whole thing, they make it clear that what they're doing, and they are asked, like, do you need me to send anybody down there to help you guys? And Shaw and Seven say, nope.
Nope, we're good. We got this.
We're good. We got this. Well, the whole point of that was because they knew that the saboteur was going to probably end up showing their face. And all of a sudden, no sooner, who comes walking in to help them out but
Sydney
LaForge.
Like, well, my dad, he was an engineer genius. Come on.
Yeah, he's
I
a
can help,
legend.
totally.
I can totally help and everything. And
Totally suspicious
well,
looking.
I mean, we at home, I don't know about you. I knew right away. I'm like, that's not her. First of all,
She's on the bridge. Because I kept watching on the bridge. Like, how is she? I don't understand.
Right. I was like, yeah, I'm not
her.
I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that she would just waltz down there like that, not under these circumstances.
No, they need her.
Yeah, exactly.
Aren't they like in the debris field at this point?
Yes.
I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
She's vital. She cannot leave the bridge right now.
Very vital to have her up there. And they emphasized that earlier when they were all talking and they were in Shaw's quarters and stuff. Why they were asking Shaw to help them out with this is because not only did he have the experience, but they couldn't spare anybody on the bridge.
Right.
So as soon as I saw her walk in, I was like, uh-oh, there's your changeling.
Uh-huh.
And then at first, Shaw's just like, you see him kind of question, and he's like, okay, kid, come help in. I'm like, no, don't buy it. She's full of shit. And she starts asking some kind of shady questions and stuff. And then next thing you know.
So if we only have one.
Yeah, that means
that's
they
not
can't
gonna be
do
enough,
anything.
Right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And the next thing is Seven is just pointing a pistol at the so-called
Point blank range.
Sydney's head and is like, turn around and get away from him. And Sydney's still trying to play off the whole thing.
Commander.
Like, Commander, don't, you're this, you've got it all wrong. And then she's like, oh yeah, Commander who? And then she's like, well, Commander Hansen, of course. Zap.
That was awesome.
Zaps her because, and then so she turns into one of those Play-Doh people. And you get your answer right then and there. That she was indeed a changeling. And when Shaw asks, like, hey, how did you suss it out? She said, Sydney never refers to me by that name. She always calls me Commander Seven out of respect. And you see Shaw just kind of look for a second, and he's just like, what does he say? He's like, quite right or whatever. Like, he's like
something.
Yeah, he basically is like, okay, yeah, I get it, And I loved it. Man, I loved the stuff with, I can't believe I'm saying this. I loved the stuff with Shaw in this episode. It was great. It was so
Shaw and Seven together, it's amazing.
He was, and this is the thing I explained before. I just hated him so much because I felt like he was an unnecessary asshole. He was an unnecessary dick. Now I get it. And so I'm able to appreciate the character on such a different level.
It's happening, guys.
Yeah. And now I understand when you said you heard those rumors and leaks from people saying, oh, no, his character
Give him time.
You're
going to love it.
Now I kind of get it. So anyway, so we go back onto the deck, and Will ends up telling Picard, hey, look, nobody knows how to fly blind than you do. So
there you go.
Yeah, you take the comm and everything, and the music swells, and you see Riker sit down in his number one spot next to him, and it's awesome. It's a great scene. Oh, we got sirens going on. I don't know if you guys can hear that at home, but they're telling us, you're going too long. Shut up already.
Yes.
We're going to wrap this up in a minute. So anyway, they do put Picard there in charge, and I love when he does the whole engage thing and all that kind of stuff.
Always. More fan service.
Yeah. So basically, just in time is typical Star Trek, literally down to the nanosecond.
It's our last chance. We got this last wave, and that's it.
Right as that wave hits, they are able to get the nacelles open, and they are able to surf that wave. And one of the best things about when they surf the wave, I felt, and I know you're going to yell at me about this too, is that when the waves happen, everything lights up and you can actually see something. I know you complained about that in old episodes.
I complained in the first episode. You're like, no, it's supposed to be really dark. And this one, it is supposed to be really dark because they were like on nothing. They dropped life support. I thought that was pretty cool. When life support went out, like, the lights went out. I was like, it just drew you into it.
Right.
Again, amazingly done.
And here's the thing. So in that first episode, during those scenes, it was like, yeah, I mean, I didn't disagree with you that it was extremely dark, but I was just like, well, okay, it makes sense or whatever. Also not realizing that we were going to have 3 more episodes after that of just darkness all the time.
It's just extremely dark.
It's a little off-putting. So anyway.
But in this one, I understood it because they were literally on nothing.
Right. So anyway, they're able to crest this wave and everything, surf on this wave. It's powering up the nacelles and everything, but they're only able to get it up to 98%.
They have to have 100 for this to work.
They have to have 100 for it to work, so they turn off all life support in order to get there. Everybody's starting to look a little desperate for air and everything, but it's working. And then what happens? They're almost running into asteroids. So thankfully, and this was kind of cool, they did this. So this gave Jack an opportunity to prove himself necessary. And I think it also helps redeem him for the rest of the crew and everything. He's sitting there like, he and his dad are essentially helping to navigate them through blindly.
Picard's like, get down there, tell me the coordinates. And Picard will like tell him where to go and everything.
Yeah. And then I love when Picard's about ready to go and he's like, no. Like, give it 4 more seconds and everything. And it proves, exactly. It was a really cool moment, nice. Cute little moment there. And they get through that and they get to the end of it only to find Vadic.
Goddamn Shrike.
And the damn Shrike waiting for them.
No, they're so close. Come on, guys.
Well, the best part about it is if we all thought that we were fed up with it, oh no.
Riker.
We were not as fed up with it as Riker
like jumps into action. This was amazing. This is my favorite Riker scene in the whole
I love
episode.
Riker just jumps up and he's like, LaForge.
That's it. I've had it.
Yeah, he's like, LaForge. He's like, take your tractor beam and lock it onto this coordinates or whatever. And everybody's looking at him like, what are you going to do? Well, what did he do? He pulled a little switcheroo on them, just like we saw.
Their own goddamn medicine.
Yeah, exactly. Just like we saw back in episode 2 or whatever. He lassos using a tractor beam a giant ass asteroid and whips it at the Shrike. And Shrike was a strike. He hit the head pin dead on, knocked the Shrike out into oblivion. Didn't completely destroy them, unfortunately.
No, of course. There's no way, because if a whole ship didn't destroy the Titan, there's no way an asteroid destroy that thing.
And also because we need these characters to carry on, because we know they're coming back.
Yep.
And everything. But just enough to knock them out of commission so that they can get away. And they do. So it's great.
I love when Beverly is like, well, did you just throw an asteroid at them? He's like, God damn right I did. Yes.
Yeah, that was great. And then at the end of it, they get out and they witness a bunch of like space creatures that look like space squids. Very similar in a lot of ways to the space jellyfish that we saw in Encounter at Farpoint, So again, that callback thing, that was really cool. And, Beverly makes her corny line of like, to seek out new life. And Riker's
then
Will's like, to boldly get our asses out of here. Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Like hit it, LaForge.
Yeah, exactly. Hit it. And they take off. Beautiful.
Last 20 minutes of this episode, man.
Was really great. And I even have a picture here, if you could see on the screen. Yeah, there's one of those space squid things. Very Pokemon-y looking. So then we get to the, what do you want to call it? The epilogue of sorts. We get to hear Picard do an admiral's log, not a captain's log, but we get to hear, which was great because that was so throwback to we haven't heard him do one of those since the movies.
Right.
Since back, maybe Nemesis probably was the last time he did it, I think. Maybe you guys can correct me at home if I'm wrong on that. I think it was probably Nemesis. But anyway, we got to hear him do that, and he's posing the questions, who is this Vadic, and what do they want with my son Jack, and all this stuff and everything. But meanwhile, we get one last flashback to the whole 10 Forward scene 5 years ago. And we come to find out that during this whole cavalier lunch of his showing off for the cadets, that there was a young guy there in a baseball hat. It's always a baseball hat. You know, that's their whole disguise. Like, hide in a baseball hat. Yeah, exactly. Camouflage. I can't see him. But, and that it turned out that Jack was actually there as a teenager, presumably at that point, and poses the question to Picard and saying, hey, I hear you saying all this stuff about how great your Starfleet family and crew and everything was, but what about a real family? Did you ever wish for a real family? And Picard says, young man, Starfleet is the only family I've ever needed. And everybody's applauding except poor Jack.
Oh, he looks heartbroken.
He looks heartbroken. I hate this scene, okay? I really have a problem with this for a couple of reasons. One, again, the cliches, the tropes, like, it's just like, of course, that one day, that particular day when those cadets asked him those questions and he was in that mood and everything, that happened to be the time that his son was there. It's like, oh, God, this isn't Dallas, this isn't Knots Landing, man. Like, come on, we can do better than that with that kind of bullshit writing. It's just so cliche. I guess some people, maybe you like those kind of cliches. I just feel like they could have done something a little better than that. But
I don't know. I think any day Picard would have had that answer, because that's what he always says. Like, I don't want a family. I don't want kids. Kids.
Well, okay, but at the same time, we're talking about a man who had this question being posed to him when he was in his mid-90s. It's not like family. I mean, what's he going to do? And he's talking to all these cadets who were like idol worshiping him. He's not going to sit there and say to them like, well, you know what? I know you're all getting ready to dedicate your lives to this and everything, but I'm here to tell you, you're going to die lonely and, blah, blah, blah. Like, actually, I don't know. I feel like there's just been so much unfairness put towards Picard. Like, it's this always, whether it's make him feel guilty for the Locutus thing that he had no control over. You know what I mean? Making him feel guilty for his upbringing, like they did in season 2 with the whole thing with his mother and all this stuff, which again, he had no control over. It's just like constantly people trying to make Picard feel bad for who he is. Even Beverly with her bullshit in the last episode and making him feel bad for who he is. And it's like, that's not fair. Like, why is this whole thing of like, we need to just break down Jean-Luc Picard as a man and show him to be this, deeply, deeply flawed human being. And I'm like, okay, I guess I just don't think it's necessary. I think doing these kind of things doing it to a certain degree is necessary. I think what they're doing with a character like Will Riker is good. I think that's cool that they're showing these other vulnerable sides to him and stuff like that. I think showing changes in character of Beverly, the eternal pacifist who's now leading this very different kind of life and has made some interesting choices with her life and everything. I think that's all cool, but I just feel like they're overdoing it with Picard, and I think they're doing it just for the sake of, well, we don't know what else to do in order to make these stories work with explain why Jack wouldn't want to be around him. I think there's so many other logical reasons they could have for why Jack would have been hesitant or afraid or whatever to have that interaction with Picard. We didn't need this cliche of him being there. Although, like I said, they didn't put it into words, but when they show that flashback and they show Picard looking at Jack across the room, I got the impression that the look on Picard's face is that Picard realizes that that young man he was talking to was Jack.
Right.
And I really hope that is it. Like, I hope that isn't just like that was unintentional or whatever. I
think it is.
I really hope that it was supposed to be Picard was like, oh no, like no wonder this guy doesn't trust me or want me to be his dad because
I didn't need him. I said I didn't need him.
I made him feel like he was unwanted and unneeded. Yeah, so in that regard, that was kind of cool, like that to provide that moment for Picard, but it
didn't bother me because I think if he sat down with like a cup of coffee and the barista or whatever walked up to him, it happened to be Jack, he'd say the same thing.
Yeah.
I think he was bolstering for the cadets, yes, but
yeah,
I think he would have said the same thing. Doesn't matter who was talking to him.
I guess.
Because he didn't know. Had he known, he would have had a different reaction.
I just feel like Picard, I don't know. I suppose. I guess. That's fine. It's not as big of a complaint to me as like the whole Locutus thing. So, but
we're not going back there.
I'm not. No. I won't go back there if they don't go back there. How about that?
All right, we'll see.
Yeah. Catch me outside. How about that? So, anyway, then we cut to Riker finally talking to Deanna Troi. We get to see Troi finally, albeit on a little view screen, but he opens up to her for the first time in a long time with his feelings and thoughts, and you could tell Deanna's just like very relieved and overjoyed to hear Riker being this way again because he hadn't been this way since the death of their son. But she also brings up to him, because she can figure things out. She's like, wait a minute. She's like, I'm so happy. She's like, I'm so happy to hear you talking like this. And it's so beautiful to hear you say these things. But are you okay? Are you and Picard in trouble? And he's like,
we'll
maybe.
see.
Maybe, probably. Yeah. So that was a cool little moment. And then last but not least, we get because they can't leave anything just on a happy note. Because we still have, 6 more episodes to go. We see Jack is in his quarters washing up. And once again, while he's there above the wash basin and in a mirror, he starts to have these visions again with the weird...
Sugar plums.
No. No, it's not sugar plums unless they're very viney and creepy.
Ugh.
Sugar plums, yeah.
Blood doors and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, very shining-ish.
Yeah.
Very Jack Torrance of him, or Danny Torrance. And hearing his name being called by some female voice saying Jack, blah blah blah, like, and
find me.
Yeah, find me, and then it cuts, and that's where it gets left.
Yes,
so
I'm hoping we're gonna start getting more into what's Jack really up to.
Yeah.
What's going on with all this? Why are they after him? And we can start getting those kind of answers now that we got this all wrapped up.
Yeah, and again, it's another thing that I've had a question of. Again, it's not that big of a deal because there's just been so much going on. I get that there just hasn't really been a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just really surprised that with all of this, there hasn't been more opportunities of people sitting down. Like in the old Trek, right? Like even going back to like the original series, when things would happen, there would inevitably be that scene where they all wind up in the meeting room, kind of like they did earlier with Will when they were trying to convince him to do this in the cell thing. But you would think there would be some scene with all of them with Jack and being like, all right.
What's up? What's going on here?
What's going on? Like, don't say nothing and don't just put it all on, well, it's Picard's son, because that's no. Even for these writers, that's way too easy and cliche. Like, there's more going on than that. I just find it funny that that hasn't happened because you think that would be like one of the first things they would do is be like, even if Beverly and Jack are like, well, we have no idea. It's like, no. Well, you may not on the surface have an idea, but that's why we need to probe you with questions and various things and see if we can figure out what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have theories real quick before we go? Like about what it is?
I don't.
Okay.
No, I'm at a complete loss in the dark. I know that one time somebody said something like that looked like the changeling world, but it looks like it's on fire. Like, do they need Jack to save them?
Well, I was just going to say, now, it was hard for me to hear. Your hearing is probably better than mine, but was the voice that he was saying, was that voice saying, find me?
I swear it said, find me. And one of them sounded like Beverly.
Yeah.
The other ones didn't, but one of them I thought when it said Jack, and I thought it sounded like Beverly calling to him because I thought she'd turn around and she's like, Jack, are you okay? What's going on? Like she knew what this was happening to him, but it never happened.
What if we come to find out that Beverly on the Titan is a changeling and is not actually Beverly, and that the real Beverly is stuck somewhere, being held somewhere or something like that? Maybe this Beverly as the changeling is, maybe she's not like the other ones that are trying to hurt Jack or capture Jack.
On the good side?
Maybe she's on like a different side. Yeah, maybe there's, or vice versa. Or maybe she's intentionally trying to keep Jack from that. You know what I mean? Maybe she's trying to keep him away. Maybe she's a bad one for all we know. There's got to be something like that. I don't think that he is a changeling.
I hope not.
Well, I don't think it would make sense because he would have to have his own goop pot and all that kind of stuff. Like I don't know about that. I don't know if he would be a changeling. So yeah, there's different theories of what this could be, but this has gone like super long.
Yeah.
This is definitely the longest one we've done so far. But man, anyway, this has been, there was so much to get into with this one. It was really hard, and I had to go on my rants and stuff. But even without my rants, there was just a lot.
Yeah.
There wasn't anything that you could really gloss over,
No, everything was pretty important, I feel.
Exactly.
It all tied in together in the end.
And it did, like I said, it did put an end to part of, this was definitely felt like if this was Lord of the Rings, this was like the end of the Fellowship of the Ring. Now we're going
to the next movie.
Now we're going into Two Towers. Yeah, it definitely felt like that, and I appreciated that because like I'd been complaining for the last 3 episodes. It's like, please don't drag this out and not give us any answers on these things until like episode 9 or something, because that's going to drive me nuts, because that's what they did with the other seasons. So I really like the way they're formatting this so far. And yeah, I'm now especially, I've been loving this. I've been really loving this. But now I'm like, all right, man, I'm like all in.
Are you in now? Okay.
I am like super all in. I'm super eager. I actually initially where I was like, I can't wait for them to get off the Titan and go somewhere else. Now I'm kind of like, I don't know. I kind of like the Titan, Like I wouldn't
stick with the Titan for a while.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's cool, man. We would love to hear your thoughts on the episode, on some of our theories and my rants, and I'm sure people are going to tell me I'm wrong and stupid and out of my mind. It doesn't surprise me.
They might agree with you and disagree with me.
Or some might agree with me. There might be some weirdos out there like me, right? But please leave your comments below or join us on Facebook. We have a group on Facebook called the Geeking Squad. Mm-hmm. It's free and open for anybody to join, as long as you're not a jerk,
right?
As long as you're not a dickhead from Chicago or whatever it was.
A dipshit from Chicago.
Dipshit from Chicago. That's it. Yeah, as long as you're not a.
I mean, you could be that too. Just don't be it in the group.
Yeah, exactly. Some may say I am, so, But in any case, the link for that is in the description below if you want to join us in the Geeking Squad group. And
if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe.
Yes, please. We're just slowly creeping up there with subscribers, and we would love more subscribers. And we'd love to hear your suggestions if you don't like how long this goes or how much I talk or how little she talks or anything.
It is what it is. That's not changing.
But
he's a talker. I'm not. I disagree. And then we just love to let this go along.
Yeah, I suppose. But we still would love to hear your input on all of that,
yes.
Because we're always trying to improve ourselves and stuff. But anyway, we got to go find our goop pots to go rest in.
I'm tired.
I bet you are.
You wore me out.
Yeah. With all my ranting, I'm sorry. But anyway, all right, everybody. See you later. Can you give them the Vulcan salute?
There we go. I'm getting better.
Yeah.
Look at that. 2-handed.
Yep. Awesome. All right. We'll see you all next week. Same Trek time, same Trek channel. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye.